Ted, will you lead us?
Sure. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We have two sets of minutes to approve. The first being the October 12th regular meeting minutes.
I move that we accept the October 12th regular meeting minutes.
Okay. Ted moved despite the fact that you were absent at the start of the meeting, but we're here for the majority, so.
Yeah.
So there's a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Zach seconds. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed, nay. Ayes have it. Second minutes are the October 12th, 2021 non-public minutes.
I'll make a motion that we accept the October 12th non-public minutes.
Okay, there's a motion. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Mary Ann seconds. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed, nay. Ayes have it. The Select Board will meet on the following dates at the Plymouth Town Hall, Monday, November 8th, and Monday, November 22nd. And then both will start at 5 p.m. Citizens wishing to be listed on the Select Board's agenda should notify the Town Hall before 12 noon, the Friday before the scheduled meeting. South Main Street project update. The Town of Plymouth engineering firm, H.E. Bergeron Engineering, have begun to gear up for the South Main Street project in conjunction with the Plymouth Village Water and Sewer District. You may notice the engineering firms walking along South Main Street, Russell Street, Pleasant Street, and the area of Railroad Square beginning soon. The Plymouth Select Board will be holding a meeting to acquire public comment at their regular Select Board's meeting scheduled for Monday, November 8th at 5:30 p.m. at the Plymouth Town Hall. This public hearing will be an opportunity for anyone to listen to the plan and timeline associated with this very large project. Town office closures. The Plymouth Town Hall will be closed on Thursday, November 11th, 2021, in observance of Veterans Day, and Friday, November 12th, 2021, to allow for the ductwork at the facility to be cleaned and sanitized. I take it to mean the facility meeting here.
Town hall. There will be a Veterans Day ceremony out in front of the town hall at 10:30. I don't think she put that on here.
Okay. Did everyone hear that? Yes, they did.
10:30.
What's that?
Do you want to announce Bartlett Road?
Sure do, yeah. As far as chairman's comments, Bartlett Road has been closed for both repairs and repaving. That's like the top, maybe 1,100 feet from its juncture with Reservoir Road down to about below the mill, theoretically. And what will happen the first week in November is that paving will occur, so the road will be open the week following. And as I heard from the highway supervisor, that you shall not go probably any faster than 20 when you hit the old pavement, because the rocks and the humps are still there. Emergency management, update and discussion, acceptance of the updated hazard mitigation plan. Emergency manager, Scott Whedon.
Evening.
Evening.
So back in March, we started updating the 2016 hazard mitigation plan. I first want to thank the committee members and Kathy and Joe, of who are here tonight. There were many others that contributed to the plan. As we moved through, we held 5 meetings, starting in March, ending in August. Public notices were posted at the town office. It was located on the town website. as well as we use social media to announce and invite members of all town departments, boards, surrounding communities, businesses, the university, state agencies, and nonprofit organizations to participate in the meetings. A representative from the town of Rumney attended one meeting, and feedback was incorporated into the plan as appropriate. I also coordinated with the Central New Hampshire Public Health Network for input on the plan. The emergency management directors from surrounding communities were notified of the plan and asked to comment on the plan as well, which we did receive a few minor updates from the 2016 plan. The committee analyzed and revised all chapters of the plan and provided input to update them. Our goals with the plan was to update the 2016 plan. We reviewed and made some minor revisions to the plan. The goals were not modified for any substantial content, as there's not been any substantial change in the development of the mitigation plan. The goals for the town of Plymouth are as follows: to improve upon and protect the general population, the citizens of the town of Plymouth and guests, from all natural and human-caused hazards, to reduce the potential impact of natural and man-made disasters on the town of Plymouth's emergency response, critical facilities, infrastructure, private property, economy, natural environment, and historic treasures, to improve the town of Plymouth's emergency preparedness and communication network, to improve the town of Plymouth's disaster response and recovery capabilities, to reduce the town of Plymouth's potential liability with respect to natural and man-made hazards, to identify and introduce and implement cost-effective hazard mitigation measures to accomplish the town goals and objectives, and to work in conjunction and cooperation with the state of New Hampshire mitigation goals, including public education on disaster preparedness and climate change. I will say some of the changes and updates from the 2016 plan was after review of the updated State Hazard Mitigation Plan of 2018. The committee included public education on disaster preparedness, climate change to the goals, also cybersecurity and public demonstration into our plan this year. We added public health emergency and solar storms as new hazards and revised extreme heat to extreme temperatures in chapters 2 and 3. Inclusion of Plymouth Village water and sewer districts into the mitigation projects of chapter 6. Prior to this plan here, we really didn't include Plymouth Village water and sewer into the planning strategies, into the mitigation strategies. This year, Jason and a couple other of his staff members attended the meetings and provided valuable input with regards to our current mitigation strategies, but additional strategies that are included in Chapter 6. So I'm in front of you tonight to have you to provide that review to you, but also to sign the certification of adoption, which once we have the certification of adoption signed by the Board of Selectmen, we will send that to FEMA for our final letter of approval of the plan once the Board of Selectmen have signed the certification of adoption. At which point, we'll get it posted on the website. We'll have hard copies available to any of those that would like to review the plan.
This is amazing, Scott. It's something we've never had before to this extent, so. You're gonna be posting like a PDF on the website, or you have like a document you can send around
Yes,
pretty quickly?
yes.
Any comments from the board?
Is there anything you missed?
Hopes not.
Can't possibly
I
be.
hope not.
Can't possibly be.
You know, I will say, you know, we had in-depth conversations with the university. Steve Lefebvre and Alex were involved in the planning, Tom Morrison and Jeremy Bonin were involved. We had a couple of community members. We had Plymouth Regional High School, Plymouth Elementary School. We've incorporated both of their emergency action plans into our mitigation strategy. And we have copies of those that are included in our portfolio of our hazard mitigation plan. So I think we worked with all parties involved, the community, and we received some good input. And I think we've been able to put that into this document and will serve the town well for the next 5 years.
So does this include, I haven't read it, does this include all the various organizations and their emergency disaster plans, like the police department, or is that a separate document?
Nope, includes all of the town's emergency operation plans,
Okay.
but it also includes university's hazard mitigation plan, as well as Plymouth Schools' emergency operation plans are all included into the portfolio of this document.
So does that mean you take control of all those different areas? So from now on, you'll update for the police or the schools or,
I will coordinate those efforts and having them updated, correct.
okay.
So you're seeking from us tonight a certification of adoption?
Correct.
I'll have to take some time to,
Scott, how did you come up with the scores in the hazard risk matrix?
Well, interesting point, Zach, good question. So each committee member was sent a score sheet and had to score each individual project as it stand on its own. Those scores were put together, and based on the cumulative average of the score, that's how they were placed in the mitigation plan.
Okay, so it was sort of like a voted
Group
matrix.
effort done individual
Yeah,
matrix, yes.
yeah, but it's not based on any actual data,
It
just
is not.
the feeling of the community or the committee on what seemed likely.
And everybody did participate, all the committee members did participate and score each individual goal. And we have gotten the approval from Homeland Security Emergency Management. That's why we have the certification of adoption tonight. Once the board has signed off on it, Homeland Security has signed off on it, FEMA will make the final sign off and send us the letter of adoption.
it's the only concern I have is there's a police car improperly parked at the front of the town hall, but
It's a really old one, too. They don't make them like that no more.
so I'm sure everyone's had a chance to review it at this point, but is there, I guess, well, what we need to do is, make a motion to approve the certification of adoption. And it's actually a resolution adopting the Town of Plymouth New Hampshire Hazard Mitigation Plan Update 2021. There's a lot of whereases. You don't want me to read them. Must I?
No, you can just, I'm sure you guys have all read the certificate of adoption as well as the adoption, implementation, and monitoring. So you just need the certificate of adoption stated and signed tonight.
That is correct.
Now
Now I can
the-
scan that, get that
The
sent back.
adoption won't come until after FEMA
We
reviews
received a
it.
letter back from FEMA.
Okay.
And what my plan is at least annually, if not biannually, is that we'll put it on the board's agenda and ask for any public input, and I'll give an update of where we are on the hazard mitigation plan, if we've identified other mitigation strategies or other things that we need to address. We can talk about that at the meeting, because it does require us to have a public meeting at least annually to discuss the hazard mitigation plan.
And so some of these projects that are listed at the end, will those, funding for those projects will be sought through regular departmental budgets and those kinds of things?
I would believe so, because most of them have a matching percentage, whether it's 80-20, 75-25. So monies would have to be appropriated through the town's budgetary process in order to fulfill the requirement of completing those projects.
Have they gone through that phase before, back in 2016?
They did. I am not aware of any funding that was appropriated other than the projects that were completed during that period. So some of the completed projects, that's a good question, Mary Ann, of what we did complete during that period.
It's not very long. You can ask them to.
We did complete a couple different things, which was the culvert at Fox Park was completed. The generator was installed at Plymouth Regional High School, which provides another shelter for us. And there was one other project that was completed during that period as well.
Well, so, regarding like number 6, something like the mitigation action, replace Foster Street well, number 1, and that's PVWSD. I mean, as far as like jurisdiction, you just check back with Jason and say, hey, it's a long time frame, but how do you intend to follow up on some of these things that aren't under our purview?
So with Plymouth Village Water and Sewer, we meet with them monthly now. And monthly, we get updates from Jason on where they're moving forward with regards to the mitigation strategies and the hazards that are identified in Chapter 6. So I think that tool has worked well since June has come on board, of meeting with them on a monthly basis and getting updates from them of what they've been able to complete and what is on their radar for moving.
I'm very impressed. Any other comments? If you ever leave. Well, let's make it, you will never leave.
You got too much to do?
Yeah.
So do we need a motion for this adoption?
Yep.
I don't know how to phrase it the way that we need it.
Kathy is recommending that the board read the resolution, and that might be your best bet.
The certification of adoption resolution?
Yes.
Yeah. Boy, okay. Thanks, Kathy. So this is the resolution adopting the Town of Plymouth, New Hampshire Hazard Mitigation Plan Update 2021. Whereas the Town of Plymouth, New Hampshire has historically experienced severe damage from natural hazards, and it continues to be vulnerable to the effects of only those natural hazards profiled in the plan, i.e. flooding, thunderstorms, severe wind, winter storms, earthquakes, and dam failure. resulting in loss of property and life, economic hardship, and threats to public health and safety, and whereas the town of Plymouth, New Hampshire has developed and received conditional approval from the New Hampshire Homeland Security and Emergency Management for its Hazard Mitigation Plan Update 2021 under the requirements of 44 CFR 201, period 6, semicolon, and whereas public and committee meetings were held between March 2021 and August 2021 regarding the development and review of the Hazard Mitigation Plan Update 2021, and whereas the plan specifically addresses hazard mitigation strategies and plan maintenance procedure for the town of Plymouth, New Hampshire, and whereas the plan recommends several hazard mitigation actions/projects that will provide mitigation for specific natural hazards that impact the town of Plymouth, New Hampshire, with the effect of protecting people and property from loss associated with those hazards. And whereas adoption of this plan will make the town of Plymouth, New Hampshire eligible for funding to alleviate the impacts of future hazards, now therefore be it resolved by the Board of Selectmen, the plan is hereby adopted as an official plan of the town of Plymouth, New Hampshire. One, the respective official identified in the mitigation strategy of the plan are hereby directed to pursue implementation of the recommended actions assigned to them. 2, future revisions and plan maintenance required by 44 CFR 201.6 FEMA and New Hampshire HSEM, Emergency Management.
Homeland Security.
Homeland Security Emergency Management, are hereby adopted as part of this resolution for a period of 5 years from the date of this resolution. And 3, an annual report on the progress of the implementation elements of the plan shall be presented to the Board of Selectmen by April 1st of each year, adopted this day of 2021. Is there a motion to approve that?
I
resolution?
move that we adopt that resolution.
Okay, is there a second?
Second.
Any further, any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, nay. Ayes have it.
Thank you.
Thank you. Oh, crap, sorry. Wait. This is the official one, sorry.
Oh, well, I signed that one for fun.
Somebody else want to sign this one for fun?
I'm good.
Okay. Joe? You're on.
And shut me off. I couldn't spend any more.
You want to buy salt.
It's a good thing.
Does that happen every year, or what? That and.
Until he gets my Christmas present.
So we're gonna start with salt. I have my salt contract. So every year this year it took them forever to do it. Usually I have it by now, but they've gone up. Last year they actually went down, but this year they went up like $12.76 a ton. So we didn't go up as far as the tonnage that we use. It just costs a little more price-wise. And we do shop around, just different vendors. Actually, some of it comes by rail, some of it comes by barge, and there is a difference in the weight. Some years we get it and you pay more because it's wet, and so what we found is we pay a little bit more for the dry stuff, but you're not paying all the tonnage for the weight, and we can actually put it out. It works better when it's dry. So we did our homework, so basically that's what I got. $44,682 for salt.
Okay.
Last year, we didn't use the whole amount because we had a very mild winter.
What happens to that, so?
Well, we get it in like the tractor trailers loads, so we end up with a little bit in our shed, and then they don't deliver it, so we don't get paid. So they don't get paid. If we don't ask them to deliver it, then we don't have to pay extra, so.
So this is an as-needed,
Yep.
essentially.
So up to this amount, I mean, we certainly won't go over that, I'm sure. Famous last words.
You might have just jinxed us
Northeastern.
for a very, very difficult winter.
Yeah, we're gonna have a mild winter, which means we're gonna get lots of freezing rain.
I'd rather have the snow.
Joe, who else did you get quotes from?
So there's Morton, and then, I honestly, I didn't write them down, but there's only 3 companies that we deal with. And I didn't, we talked to them, but I didn't write them down. I don't have that information in front of me. But,
Is everybody similarly up around 20% this year over last year?
no, actually, some districts are down, but see, it goes by district. So we're like a District 1. And so like we're the furthest away, like a lot of the salt comes to Portsmouth, and that's where then it gets trucked to us. So if you live in Portsmouth, you don't pay that trucking fee, it's right there.
Right.
So, so a lot of it's based on the trucking part of it too.
Okay.
So,
So gas prices being up probably increases some of that trucking cost?
it will be a little bit, yep.
But the other vendors you talked to were also,
Right, and so like, in your district, like only 2 of them I could use anyways. The third one, even though you price it out, your salt's only allotted to you through your district. And so we had two vendors, and the other one, their salt is a lot wetter.
okay.
So we choose to go this route.
Any other questions? Is there a motion?
I'll make a motion to accept the purchase for salt at the price of up to $44,682.
Okay, there's a motion. Is there a second?
A second.
Mary Ann seconds. Any discussion?
Just a clarification, the up to, we do have a minimum of 40%. In case, just saying it out loud.
Oh, okay. All right. Any further discussion? Seeing none.
Do we need to waive the competitive bid documentation?
If you want to make a motion, do you want to ask do you want to add that to the motion?
Sure, I'll amend my motion to include the waive of competitive bid.
What do you mean by that? What does that mean?
Means we didn't.
Anytime we're over, what, $10,000, and
Yep.
we're supposed to have a competitive bid attached to the invoice,
Okay,
and so we don't have one, so we'll have to waive it.
so you want me to come up with one for it?
No, we're gonna waive it so that
Okay.
you don't need it this time. Ideally, it's really nice if we have that attached, so it makes us know that all of the due diligence has been done. Verbally, you handled that,
Okay,
Well, if you accept that amendment.
if we accept the amendment.
Do you second?
Yeah, I second. I'm sorry, I second that.
All right. Any discussion? Further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, nay. Ayes have it.
so RM Piper, snow, winter, sand hauling, I put that out to bid. And he was the only one to bid on that specific
So what is that exactly, Joe?
So, when we have a storm, and we have to do, clean up on Main Street, and so we come in and we windrow all the snow, and then Piper, his trucks come in at 5 o'clock, and then we blow all the snow into their trucks. And then if our sand shed gets low, they will also haul our sand. So again, it's up to that amount, and that 30,000 actually comes out of winter services. So there's other items in that winter services, but I have a hard time trying to break that down because you don't know, but that's why it's that price, because we have used up to that amount before, if you add up all the winter services. So, he's the only one that bid on that.
So there are other people who do it, but they're just the only one.
Yeah. For that
See that one.
specific one, that's what, he's the only one that bid. Because you have to have two to three 10-wheelers and get them out of bed, and they show up at 5 o'clock in the morning, and haul all your snow, and if you want them to haul sand, they'll haul sand, and
So they do both snow and sand as needed
Uh-huh.
at $100 an hour. So the
Well, yeah.
purchase order that you're seeing there, for 30,000, Joe?
yep.
Yep. Is for both.
You have another contract with the,
No, that's not the one.
like the Mid-State Boulder Point Road,
I'm saying.
but that's a
It's
small
separate
truck.
contract.
Okay,
That's what I was looking for.
That one I was holding on to.
Why is that separate, or? I guess
because
we can
well, it's a
do it?
smaller truck too, and
It's just the
it's
bid.
a Ford.
Provides a different service, even though it comes out of the
Sorry.
same
Oh, that's okay.
light item, it's a separate service.
This is this is just a triaxle, or what?
Those are just the trucks for that service, yep. And we've used them for probably over 10 years or better. It's very rare that anybody bids against him, because he's local, and quite honestly, no one, try to find somebody who wants to get out of bed to do that job.
True.
This is up to 30,000. What's a typical year look like on this particular service?
Maybe up to half of that, maybe 15,000.
All right. Any other questions, or is there a motion?
And was this one was done as like a public bid process? This was the only person who bid on it?
Oh, yeah, I put it in the paper,
Yeah, put it in the paper, right.
and it went to the public,
And that's the same case
it's
when
on
we
our
get to.
website.
I thought I had seen this on the website. That's why I asked.
Okay, I'll make a motion to accept the bid for snow, winter, sand hauling service for the amount of $30,000.
Up to.
Up to.
Up to. Thank you.
Second.
Prompting from the audience, but, okay, there's a motion and a second. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, nay. Ayes have it. Okey-doke.
Don't have one either.
So screened dry sand.
Yep, so Ambrose, we have, we get bids from Ambrose, we get them from Hiltz, and Pike Industries. So Ambrose has, their sand is a lot coarser, so it works better. But the prices are competitive. But like the best sand out there is Pike Industries, but you have to go all the way to Tilton for it. Ambrose is just here in Bridgewater. So what I do is I have a contract with Ambrose for the bulk of it. And so what's happened is, I think this is their third year in doing it here. But we've been caught short where they shut down because we've had some really cold weather spells or things unforeseen where they had to shut down for periods of time. And so that's why I have a backup with Pike Industries. So in case something happens, it doesn't disrupt us not having sand.
And Pike is more expensive.
Well, no, actually, Pike is cheaper, but I have to pay all that trucking.
Yeah,
So
that's okay.
by the
that's fine.
time I get done the trucking, I pay double the amount. So, in theory,
The wash in theory?
Ambrose is the best deal. But I have Pike, the next one down, just because if there's unforeseen circumstances, I have a backup plan, so the town is not left high and dry with no materials.
Now it goes with that one.
Okay. Any other questions, or is there a motion?
So the Ambrose sand,
Yep.
it's $11 a ton,
Yep.
or is that a cubic yard, actually?
Well, one's
Yeah, $11 a cubic yard.
yards, but
Yeah, so that's interesting. Makes it hard to do apples to oranges, or apples to apples rather. So we pick this up. So this $11 is the pickup price,
yep, and so
and then is it the RM Piper that's actually hauling the sand for us in this case, or is it us who's
if
hauling it?
as a rule, we try to have them do some of it because it's part of the contract. But if there's a day where our guys aren't busy and we can do one day of trucking, it'll save us some money. Or there are some days when Piper's trucks are busy and they can't do it, but we try to work together to make it all happen. This is the first year that in their contract, they said call ahead. So, honestly, in the sand, that's just all new that they're doing that.
And we don't have the other quotes for this either.
I don't. I've been doing this for so long that, I use the vendors that work, and I like these two, Ambrose and Pike, the two, and then the only one I don't have here is Hiltz. But their sand is so silty, their sand isn't as good as ours, is what I want, so. I wouldn't use it, so that.
I still think it would be a good idea to have those attached with the explanation of why you're choosing one over another. I'm assuming that Ambrose is always the cheapest because we're picking it up.
It isn't always about that, it's about the quality of the material too, so I make my judgment call off the price and the quality. If you buy sand that isn't a good product and you put it out, then you're wasting everybody's money. So,
Ultimately, it's hard for anybody to discover why you're choosing this based on this rationale. It's not, there's nothing official.
Well, I assume that you just take my word that I know how to do my job, but if I have to
It's
do
not a
that,
question
then-
about whether we're taking your word or not. If we were to go back and look at historical records and somebody were to question it, you're not making a statement here that we're choosing it for this reason. It's just this price. And since we can't see any of the competitive bidding results, it could be called into question.
Okay.
So is that for a future?
Yeah, I think we need to make sure that we're asking other areas to make sure they provide those extra quotes. We should be consistent. And whatever explanation you give us, I'm totally fine with, but we should have those.
This is the first board that's questioned me, so I guess I'm just not used to it yet. I'll try to make that happen for you.
Okay.
Thanks, Joe.
Very good. Is there a motion on this?
I'll make a motion to accept the described quote for up to 2,000 cubic yards at the price of $11 per yard for a total of up to $22,000.
Okay, we have a motion. Ted moves. Is there a second?
Second.
Zach seconds. Any other discussion? And then all those in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, nay. Ayes have it.
So the Pike Industries is just a backup plan, so if there are unforeseen problems that I have a backup plan.
So in theory, we should never need to use that backup plan?
Well, I have, I didn't last year, but the year before I did. And that was a perfect example of having those other quotes, because I had the quotes and I had to make it happen, so.
Better for you to be able to get sand when you're in a pinch than have to wait 2 weeks to get one of us to sign off on something.
So this one here, the trucking cost is not included?
Correct.
So what would the cost, what would the additional cost to truck that sand be?
It comes out of the winter services,
And who would you?
but I don't include it because that winter services is a round figure that is as needed. I actually have a quote for my sand, but if I can't include that trucking if I don't, unless I truck the material, so.
So it's either gonna be done by the hauling service we already approved or by your own staff.
So if you approve the sand, the sand's there if I need it, and then I pay the trucking fee out of that winter services is why I have that service for a certain amount of money for those.
So you might actually use Pike's trucking and not our own trucking.
I have them truck it because it's cheaper. They come in with a tractor trailer dump and dump like 3 loads compared to our little trucks or for $100 an hour, it would cost a lot to
Go
send
down there and get it and
Piper's
come back.
trucks.
Yeah.
So that's why I just don't include it. If I don't need it, I don't use it.
And so when this one says 1,500 units of dry screen sand.
Yep.
and this one says
These
cubic
units are
yards.
tons.
Yeah.
So
that's
one of them's in yards and one of them's in
Tons.
tons.
Yep.
So I think that it's probably, so we can really tell, they should be in the same units so that we can see which one really
Well,
is.
I buy it by the yard from Ambrose and I buy it by the ton from Pike.
Okay, so how much does a yard of sand weigh?
I don't have that figure in front of me.
somebody casually reading this could say, wow, it's way cheaper to get it from Pike, not understanding that. So there should be some explanation with these things that does that conversion so that we can tell whether we're getting a good deal or not.
Are you
Once
looking it up?
again, it's not always about the price, it's about the quality and the, then you have
Exactly,
to
yeah.
add the trucking, there's a lot to it, so if I
Price
have to
versus-
break that all down for you, then
Figure it
I
out.
certainly will next time.
I'm just suggesting that it's a better practice so that it's easier to compare apples to oranges.
I put a lot of homework into it, so, like I said, this is the first board that's questioned me, so I will make that happen for you.
Okay.
Any other discussion, or are we gonna move this time?
I make a motion, we accept this purchase order for Pike Industries for 1,500 units of dry screen sand at $5.95 a unit for a total of $89.25.
And this is up to,
Yeah, it should say up to, but,
correct?
yeah,
Yes,
Okay.
I mean, I might not even use it, it's just there if I need it.
right.
Okay. There's a motion, is there a second?
I'll second.
And moves, Ted seconds. Any further discussion?
In this case, the units are tons, just for clarification.
Okay, that's a friendly amendment. All right, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, nay. Nice have it. Ooh, my signature's getting worse.
As the night goes on. Mine's pretty bad to start with.
And then there's Mary Ann.
What are you saying?
Nothing.
I got too much of the page.
All right,
All on the edge.
so we've got R.M. Piper from Boulder Point Plowing Sand Service.
Boulder Point, it's just by the hour, and it has a 1 ton with the truck, and they use our salt. And that comes out of winter services, so it's roughly maybe 15,000 out of that. It's by the storm, so however many, he has a minimum of like, I don't know,
3 hours.
whatever it's,
3 hours.
so, and it usually takes pretty close to that.
So when you say it's by the storm, who makes that determination? You or do they?
However long it takes them to do it.
No, yeah, you call them in when they get like 3 inches of snow, or they have a rule that, they get like,
When it snows, they're on an on-call basis. And Boulder Point is a high priority, so if it snows, they're on it. Just like when we get called out, if it snows and we get called out from the PD. So
So
And
a
that's-
similar situation would be if it's icy or
yeah, it doesn't matter whether it's snow or ice, they're there to take care of that road, that this is their contract to maintain that road through the whole winter.
And they typically use about half, you said?
On a normal year, it's right around 15,000.
Do we have any other bidders for this?
Yep, this is the first year in several years that I did, and one guy bid this, and he gave me a price for the trucking, but no price for the salt. So I wasn't sure how he wanted to, for us, we have them use our salt. They keep track of it, and the other bidder bid it, and he was extremely high, because he wanted to use his own salt, and it was by the storm. So his materials and his equipment were like double what Piper was. So, the thing is with Piper, we've had him for so long that we have a good system that works and everybody treats each other fair, but we still put it out to bid and those, so I really should have given you those other, they were kinda incomplete because when you put it out to bid, people tend to bid it the way that works for them, even though I put it out to bid a certain way. So if I put it out to bid a certain way and they alter it, then I have to make a judgment call whether that works for us or it doesn't. So there's a lot that you consider when you make those decisions.
I understand that. I also understand Ted's concern, or all of our concerns, that, I mean, it wouldn't take much to document, a response from, the people that you call up.
Yeah, I got these three short paragraph. I selected this one because X. Just put it in writing why you want that. And that will go in the records, and if anybody ever questions it, they have it.
I can do that.
Okay.
I make a motion that we accept the purchase order for up to $30,000 to RM Piper for Boulder Point plowing and sand service.
Okay, Zach moves,
I'll second.
Ted seconds. Any further discussion? Seeing none. All those in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Oh my goodness. Okay, we
Okay,
got
the
it.
last one
Yep.
is Dana White. So, we had a chance to, well, he was out there. We got a price to do some more drainage. Finish the culvert work, so that the next time when we go to add on to where we left off, all the drainage part of that project will be done, so that he would have to just box it out and pave it. All the culvert work would be done.
So these funds as well are coming out of the ARPA funds. We have 2 purchase orders prior to this one totaling $148,000. With this one, you've spent about $173,000 of $718. Okay, sorry, Ted, I didn't put that in writing to you, but I think you were just looking for those numbers as they go along.
Yes, would be the third one.
Yes.
The last one was the 10,000, also
Correct.
for Bartlett Road,
Yep.
and then the first one was for
The drainage behind the school.
drainage behind the school. Yeah. Thank you. Trying to keep track.
Any questions or? Is there a motion? I think one of you guys will have to,
I was giving Mary Ann the opportunity.
I did the last one.
you can do another one, it's
In
okay.
a row? All right, fine. I make a motion, we approve the PO for Dana White Excavating for the work on Bartlett Road drainage project.
All right, that's the last motion you can do.
Thank you. For
You're
a
so
total of
jerk.
$25,126. I'm gonna read the whole thing.
I'll second.
There's a motion, there's a second. Any further discussion?
Personally, just say it again, continued investment in Bartlett Road. not great use of public funds, from my perspective. I understand we're doing a project there. I understand that while it's open, it's the best time to do it. Literally no one lives on that road in this town. It's just such a bad use of public funds. If I could spend that $25,000 on expanding internet in this town, fixing drainage on a road where people live, that's where I'd put the money. Not on Bartlett Road. But I understand we're committed to doing that project, and so while we're there, it's the most efficient use of time and funds.
Zach, you also want to consider that our safety services, fire and police use that road to get from one side to the other. It's quicker for them to be able to use that.
And it would have been perfectly fine for them to have done that on a dirt road instead of a brand-new, freshly tarred road. I'll continue to make this argument for all the years that I'm on this board. It's my necessary bit of commentary.
The road will be done pretty quickly, I guess, so.
No. At least two more years, right? Like, because there's the other next couple sections to do.
Bartlett Road was not my choice.
Oh, Joe, this
I had
is
funds
about you.
allocated
I 100%.
somewhere else.
It was a town, it was a
understand.
town
It
vote.
was a town vote, town decision.
Now
get
I'm
it.
halfway through it, and
I agree. I understand why you're doing it. I don't think you're making the wrong prioritization. You're there, you've got it open, it's the best way to spend the money from your perspective.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? See none, all those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed, nay.
All those
All those abstain.
I'll continue to abstain my Bartlett Road votes rather than
Okay.
naying them.
we'll invite you for the ribbon cutting.
They're actually gonna have one?
No, I'm just kidding. I was
I
just,
wanna see this now.
Listen, I might start voting for it if there's a ribbon cutting.
I am now encroaching on Neil's just showing up.
Happy to see you, Neil.
Oh, and he brought dinner.
I had it to you before
All
tonight's
right,
over.
where are we? Are we done? Are we done?
Like-
Yeah, we are done with Joe.
You're done with you, Joe. We're so done with you.
Anything else, Joe?
Nope. He's just waiting for us, sorry.
Oh, okay.
I saw pictures of snow on the camp this morning.
Yep.
Oh,
So I gotta say, appreciative that you're getting out in front on your sand and your salt and all your plowing contracts.
For
It's,
me.
it's a good thing you're not plowing Mount Washington, that's all. there is to
They
it.
don't do that until spring.
Can I have those two?
Once it snows-
POs, the copies that I gave you
They
back?
don't do anything on that road.
Yeah. I just skied it once.
They take the
Those
snow
are all
cap.
executed for you.
They might grade
Can I
it.
put them in your box?
Oh, no.
okey-doke.
Groom it.
Groom
They
it.
groom it
With a
with a
snow
snow
groomer?
cat, yeah.
Yeah.
But I know that in places they have like
Fine.
tens of feet of snow there.
All right. Thank you.
Okey doke. So,
Not doing that.
we're good.
Okay.
Thank you, Joe.
Thanks,
We're
Joe.
all prepared for winter.
It's snow.
Not yet. Let him get some of this stuff delivered.
Did they raise the price of sand?
Yes.
Yep.
Oh, you missed all the good discussion.
20% up on salt.
Not surprised. Yeah.
Let me get my boot off so I can put a real boot on if it's gonna snow.
Okay. New other business. Kathy Lowe, Scott Weed, Loon Lake Grant update and discussion.
So Scott is here to fill in anything I may have forgotten, and Joe can answer any questions if anybody has any. In August of 2011, Tropical Storm Irene caused considerable flooding, stranding the residents of Loon Lake Road, Arlen Road, and Chason Road and Slate Lane. The National Guard as well as Red Cross were called to the site to see to the safety and well-being of the residents. In 2018, the town applied for a grant with FEMA for the mitigation of Fairgrounds Road and Loon Lake Road to replace the culvert and redesign the road in order to take care of flooding issues which prevent residents of these roads from accessing Fairgrounds Road. We were turned down for the grant at that time without, and I'm reading this as to get you guys up to speed because Bill was here during that process. So we were turned down for the grant with FEMA saying that our benefit cost ratio, or BCR, point average was too low. They want it to be at a 2 or above, and we were at a .78. With the help of Paul Hatch, Plymouth's field representative for Homeland Security, we pursued this grant, making adjustments on a number of occasions to get our BCR number up closer to a 2. Highway Manager Joe Fagna and Town Engineer Mike Vignali reevaluated the project and project needs to correct the flooding situation. This included replacing the culvert with a larger culvert to manage the flow. FEMA reviewed the revisions and determined that the culvert was not a necessary part of the mitigation of the roads. This brought our BCR average to 1.69, so we were denied again. We met with Paul Hatch on a number of different occasions to try to get the grant to pass. At the present time, the cost estimate for the project is $576,000. The cost of the culvert approximately $150,000. If we remove the culvert, from the total cost of the project would be $426,000. If we were able to get the grant to pass, and based on the present cost estimate, FEMA would pay 75% of the $426,000 or $320,000, with the town portion being $106,000, plus the cost of the culvert replacement. At this time, the town does not have the required matching funds, and it is our understanding that the period of time for this grant ends in 2022. Following a meeting with road agent, town planner, emergency management director, finance director, and myself, it was suggested that the project be tabled until another flooding event occurs. We are financially able to budget the expense previously noted, or flood maps are updated, leaning in our favor. Tonight, we're asking direction from the Select Board to decide what direction they wish to go in. We can continue working with the same grant with the hopes that our point average will come up to at least a 2 after the flood maps are updated. We can pursue a new grant in the future. We can try applying for a different grant, but in these cases, at this point, our chances are pretty slim, as we don't have enough supporting evidence to show the necessity of this project, and we do not have the required 75% matching funds appropriated to this project. In order to proceed with the current grant application or any further applications, we need to find $8,000 to have Mike Vignali do a new scope of work and cost estimate. Plans for the future would be to budget for the Loon Lake Road mitigation and culvert replacement, and also to keep track of and document any future events. So far, we only have documentation of the one event, even though we know that others have occurred, so it will be important in the future to keep better track of the events. We had a lot of problems because we did only have documentation for that one flooding event that happened. We had the Red Cross and we had National Guard out there. You know, so we have, thanks to Joyce Weston, we have pictures of a guy canoeing down Loon Lake Road, you know, down in that area, because he couldn't get through with his car. But we only have the one incident right now. So it's, you know, we can continue to pursue the grant that we're in with the hopes that the updated flood maps will make a better opportunity for us to be able to get the point average up. Or we can table it for the time being and try and apply again in the future.
When was this incident again?
Excuse me?
When was the incident again?
2011.
So you're waiting for the updated FEMA maps?
Yeah.
Aren't they available now?
June says that they're not available yet.
Oh, okay, because I mean, they had them posted for, you know, maybe not the final maps, but they've got the floodway.
Maybe that's what she's looking for, is the final version.
Okay.
Doesn't look like we can do anything until that.
What?
We get that doesn't look like we can do anything until that final version.
We
Well,
can't bring our grade average up, our point average up.
And that would be the only way to do it, right?
well, that would help.
That would help.
That would help. Having another event
Well,
would help.
that, yeah.
Or hurt, depending on your
Except-
point of view.
Right.
We've been trying, but
Do you have any anecdotal knowledge of when the last event before 2011 was?
I don't, and that's what I was trying to find. I did find something that said 1976, there was some major flooding, you know, and they showed pictures of Tenny Mountain Highway which, I mean, it would have affected Loon Lake Road too, because I don't know what you call the flood elevation or whatever it is, was like over 21. And it's like 14 is considered flooding, you know, so that was 1976, so. But we don't have pictures or any documentation, so if we have further flooding, we need to make sure that we document.
So this is more like a 35-year frequency event?
It's kind of called the 100-year flood.
And they don't do 100-year, you know, technically they do it like, you know, the percentage of a flood for each year. But
It could happen in two simultaneous years, or it could happen 2 in 50 years.
yeah, but
I think some of the bigger problems in going through the application and looking at it and working with Brian Eaton from Homeland Security and Emergency Management and FEMA, the young lady that we were working with previously has actually gone to work for FEMA, so we don't have that link. But in the application, they really require 3 events in order to substantiate any type of grant program. They also require, is it going to be a disruption for everybody living on Fairgrounds Road? That's not the case, because you can go one way to get out, you can go the other way to get out. So it doesn't create that traffic restriction if there's flooding in that general area, with the exception of the people on Loon Lake Road, Chason Road, and Allen Way. So it's really the building of the case in order to receive the grant. And again, like Kathy said, is the flood maps and the engineering that Joe and Mike Vignali did, FEMA turned down, saying that there wasn't a culvert needed, just needed to raise the level of the road. But trying to get the state's involvement in this is harder than pulling teeth to get them to commit any funds to raising Fairgrounds Road in that general area. I think Joe's right, the culvert does need to be replaced, and is that a separate project we can do at some time and then go for the mitigation grant? Because the HMGP, the Hazard Mitigation Grant Program, is available every year with a pocket full of money that comes with that. But until we're able to build a bigger case based on events, based on traffic restrictions, I think we're going to always score below that too. And that's one of the biggest pieces. If you look at our application, we have the one event. And, you know, do we need to do a better job of documenting things that happen in those areas? Absolutely. And I think this is a wake-up call to show that we need to do that, and we need to continue to pursue it in our mitigation plan, because it probably will happen again. It's just we don't have the documentation at this time to support them issuing the funds for the project.
you know, another solution is to complete, or put the, not the culvert, but the bridge back on the other end in Campton on Chason Road. That got washed out, I don't know, probably 20 years ago, 15 years ago. And that's all elevated, so that would be able to, you know, you could leave through Campton into Ashland, but, or Rumney rather. Do you recall when the last floods were? I mean, you live out there.
Well, the biggest flood, it came all the way up to my driveway. The water was 5 or 6 feet deep on Fairgrounds Road. That was April 1st, 1987. That intersection is frequently flooded. A number of times I've seen 3 or 4 feet of water over that intersection. The water comes up to the road almost every year.
So who documents this? Is this your role or Joe's role, or?
I think between Joe and I, we will be able to document that as we move forward. I will definitely have it included in the notes in the mitigation plan, so when we do our updates, whether we do it biannually or annually, we'll include that in there. But unfortunately, we don't have that. I know when we had the heavy rains back around Christmas last year, I was up there, and as Neil stated, it was right up to the road's edge, but it hadn't crested and gone across the road at that time. So we just, I mean, I didn't start till last year, but I could not find any documentation anywhere in the files that I had access to provide further documentation.
What's the cost to raise the road?
Probably a lot.
What does that mean?
It was
This-
576 was the total cost. Without the culvert, it's 426.
To raise the road. We're
Gotcha.
trying to get some funding for the state for a commitment from them as well, and they haven't been willing to do that yet.
Our initial application was to replace the culvert, not to raise the road. But our point average wasn't high enough, so we had Mike McNally do the scope of work out there to figure, with Joe, to figure out what it would cost to raise the road. And they accepted raising the road now and not the culvert, so it's kind of. So we do have to wait for further events.
Typically want 3 events that are documented.
If there's any residents out there that remember any flooding issues.
Well, we got one.
I'll check my weather records.
There
Were you
go.
stranded during the 1987 storm?
No, I had a 10-wheeler. I went through-
Did you have pictures that showed?
Yeah, I think I might have some pictures.
Pictures with dates on them, because that's what they're looking
I
for.
think I do have pictures.
That would be good. That
I'll
would
dig
be-
them
Does
up.
this have to be a declared disaster in order to count?
Doesn't have to be a declared disaster, it just has to be a documented disaster.
I have photographs.
Okay, good. We'll wait to see your scrapbook.
Oh, okay.
And I mean, if we can get that information, it doesn't hurt us to have another call with Paul Hatch and Brian Eaton to say we've got some additional documentation of events that took place out there. Can we include those in the existing grant, or do we need to apply for a new grant for that based on the updated evidence?
I recall June saying that the work would need to be done by the end of June
For
on
the
this
existing.
grant. And time frame, you could always ask for an extension.
Yeah, she said 2022.
start.
Yep.
We could
Right.
ask for an extension, or we did submit the paperwork of a letter of intent for the BRIC grant and the hazard mitigation grant program again for next year. So we're in the loop on that, so that our letter of intent is sitting at Homeland Security Emergency Management for any additional funding that may become available.
But isn't the BRIC grant the one that encompasses
The entire country.
the entire country?
And then
So-
the HMGP is just for New Hampshire communities, municipalities.
So if Neil can get us pictures and maybe dates,
Especially if we can marry those pictures up with weather records to show that there's a correlation.
I have weather records.
that would be good. That would be awesome. So we can try at least one more time and then, bring it back to the board later.
It's a good thing to table this for now and see what Neil can come up with and any other documentation that Neil might have in his weather records, and we can build off of that.
Right.
It's kind of ideal if the weather records are not Neil's personal, but something that is discoverable from the, maybe NOAA or some other organization that,
University might have them.
Yeah.
yeah, that's a good point.
Okay. What?
Okay.
You had another thought?
No, I don't have any other thoughts.
Okay. It's a shame.
Well,
I thought you were gonna volunteer to go chase those records down.
I don't even have time for that.
We should table it. We should table it until Neil gets us the information and try
Oh,
some.
forgot to shut it off.
It doesn't have to be the next meeting. If we have it by then, we can do it the next meeting. Otherwise, it can wait till the end of the month.
We have a call prior to the next meeting based on the
Yeah.
information that Neil provides, and talk to Paul and Brian and the young lady's name. Escapes me.
Olivia.
What's that?
Olivia?
Could be. And have that conversation with them to see, does this build any strength to our case?
All right.
That work?
Works for me.
For me.
We'll wait for you, Neil.
All right. Thanks, Scott.
Thanks, Scott.
Kathy. Grace Garvey. Plymouth Energy Commission.
What's that?
The Plymouth Energy Commission.
Yes. I'm wondering who else we have. So we also have Ashley Saba, Jamie Polly Cronin, and Margaret Mumford, or better known as Maggie. Is that all the people that are attending by Zoom?
I shut it off.
So they're here also to support what we want to do for a presentation tonight. So we had our first meeting on October 14th. We identified officers, and I don't know if you need to know who those are. We're going to publish our first set of minutes after our next meeting, because obviously we have to approve those minutes first. In those minutes, it'll be outlined who is assuming the officer positions. One question is, so Neil I noticed on the back page of your agenda for tonight, it's referenced as the Energy Committee, but it is a commission, and I guess Neil's going to be our contact and not Bill. Is that right? Oh. It's just a little aside.
Okay.
Some of our members want to attend by Zoom for now. And one question that came up during the meeting is, do we need to audio tape those sessions?
It would be helpful,
Okay,
I think, yeah. I mean, if you're gonna do Zoom anyway, just record it.
got it. Okay, great, thank you. The other thing we talked about was this constant burning question about whether we participate in some kind of community power program. And what we decided to do was to get a few of the entities that are out there right now working under that House Bill 315 for community power, and to get them to come to the PEC, our next meeting, to present out what their proposal would look like and what kind of way they could work with the PEC and with the municipal, the residents and business owners that will consume power from here forth. And so we're going to ask a few folks from Standard Power, from Freedom Energy, which is something Kathy and Ann passed along to us. And then there's also a group called the Green Team, who are working with the New Hampshire Electric Co-op on getting the co-op to be considering more renewable resources on their portfolio. And those folks are folks you probably recognize, Sandra Jones from Paray. I'm trying to think of who else is on the Green Team. A few other folks from different communities that are in the new, the co-op's range. So we'll report back to you on what we might think would be appropriate steps from here. And I'm assuming my other folks from the PEC will raise their hands if they have anything they want to offer. And then our solar project, I think, is the biggest burning project that we have on our docket right now. And I was wondering if we had some time to talk about that tonight, because we really want to move that forward. And right now, what we, again, are proposing is a solar array on the police department roof and the town shed. And the only way we can really move forward with that conversation or that research or that proposal and take it to a hearing and then to warrant article is to figure out if the buildings are structurally sound enough to hold the arrays. And I think we talked about that at the select board meeting a couple weeks ago, or at least once or twice we talked about them. So I guess we're here to ask if we can get some kind of approval to move forward with getting an engineer to look at those two buildings. I know we discussed it at the Plymouth Energy Commission's meeting, and Neil had mentioned something about, who knows, maybe there's money in the police budget to pay for that, but I don't know how to pursue getting those engineering assessments.
Could we just have Mike Vignali look at both of those to see if the structure they can, hold the weight?
The selectmen want to pay for that out of their
How
budget?
much might it be?
I don't know. We can get some prices.
Yeah.
from him.
Yep.
And you're looking for the weight load
Correct.
available.
Would the buildings accommodate the arrays? And I can forward to you again these proposals.
Do those have estimated weights on them?
If they don't, we can get those without,
I would say
pretty
they would
easily.
need to have
Yeah.
that.
So can I work directly with Ann to get her those? Weight
Yeah, it's-
loads?
Yep. But then she's gonna have to come back to us. We're gonna have to, you know, if it all works out, to expend monies for the engineer and
Mm-hmm.
Now, is the board in favor of putting solar arrays on those two buildings?
I think if we could,
If it supports it. well,
yeah, if it, yeah.
If it supports it and the price works out from the proposed, like conceptually, yes, I mean, there's details to see, but
Mm-hmm. I mean, literally, we can't move forward with even pricing them
absolutely.
or getting contractors to bid on them without knowing that the roofs are gonna hold them. So we're sort of stymied right now,
Yeah.
in a way.
Joe seems to have a,
I have a question. Let's say that those panels go up on these buildings. Is there like a maintenance associated with them, how they get, whether you have to maintenance them or liability or something being on our buildings if something happens?
well,
Go ahead.
well, you got Maggie Mumford's on there and she put an array on, the whole new school thing. I mean, we have an array on our roof and there's literally no maintenance. But that's me. But maybe, Maggie might have a different opinion, but, it's passive.
Maggie's, go ahead.
The maintenance is nil. It depends on the angle of the roof, how much snow sliding you have. We have one ground mount at Holderness that literally the snow just will slide off of it because of the angle that it's put up, and there needs absolutely nothing done with that, and they're set high enough up that it would be unusual for the snow to accumulate so high that there would need to be any kind of removal. The other is a rooftop array, and that angle of the roof is flat enough that sometimes snow is retained. The school opted to purposefully put further retention to prevent the snow from coming down onto cars because there is a parking lot below it. Generally, there's no change in how much would be shed by the roof. If it's on certainly if it's on a steel roof, it's going to shed just like before. If it's a fairly flat roof, you're going to have more snow cover during the winter. It would be less efficient, but less concerned about liability. Does that help?
Yeah.
I tell
Thanks,
you,
Maggie.
the array on our roof, it's like you have a metal roof. So the snow comes, when it's released, it just like sheets right off. So if you have like a town truck underneath, that's not gonna be probably a very good idea.
Although there are colleges with absolutely huge arrays immediately above playing fields and where people walk, and the angles are such that they don't do anything with them. Several schools are that way. So I don't know about towns and their assumptions about liability, but it's pretty darn low risk.
Right. All right, thank you.
Did someone have something else?
I was gonna ask, in terms of the engineering costs, and just not wanting to hold any of this up, Kathy, what's your expenditure limit?
I don't have the budget with me. I don't remember what's in
She
it.
can sign off on up to $5,000. So depending on,
So we could make a motion that was, if the engineering was up to some amount, then, proceed.
I would presume it would cost less than $5,000 for him to
For him
determine
to determine.
the
That would,
snow load.
kind of my feeling as well.
So we don't have to make a motion?
No, the motion to proceed,
Only the motion to proceed,
Oh,
Kathy
I see what you're saying.
can sign the detailed engineering.
I'm probably going to sound pushy when I ask this question, but the clock's really ticking on this to maybe get it moved forward this year. I mean, is it possible to assign some kind of deadline to get the engineering
I think
assessment?
from what Zach is just proposing, then, you know,
It speeds it along as fast as we can speed
Yeah.
it along.
Yeah, got it.
So I'll make that motion to support moving this forward and Kathy using her signature to get the engineering figured out, less than $5,000.
Second.
all right, we got a motion and a second. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, nay. Ayes have it.
Couple more quick questions, and these might have to be deferred till later. So we have been working with New England Commercial Solar Services, specifically Ted Van Zant from Holderness. He works a lot with Paray and other groups locally. He was essentially, and I'm not sure what the word is, but I guess awarded the RFQ a couple of years ago in 2017 to work with us and get a cost estimate for the one that we were proposing at the transfer station, meaning the solar array at the transfer station. Ted has put a lot of pro bono work into working through until this point, you know, assessing the town buildings, coming up with these cost estimates sheets, things like that. Do we have the ability to continue to work with him? And I know I've asked that question before, but if we're going to continue to move forward, can we just continue to work with him since he was identified previously as the preferred contractor?
I know he was in a position where if it came to like an, RFP, he couldn't respond to it because he's, if he's helping the commission to the extent that he's making specifications for an RFP, then he's kind of shut himself out, right? So I don't think you necessarily would want him to work with you unless he still doesn't have a desire to respond to an RFP, because he didn't bid on the last one either. Remember?
So what you're saying is that it would be okay for him to work with them as long as he does not put in a bid?
Yeah, because if he's making specifications for an RFP that we're going to award, and he responds to it, then that's not going to be proper.
If I can add in here,
Yeah.
that he did not get an RFP in a timely fashion last time around, and when the project was abandoned, he then inquired of the then still meeting commission whether or not it was likely to come up again. And we said we were optimistic that it might. So he was under the impression that he might still be eligible if an RFP should come up again. And that's how it was left, because we did not accept revisions. They opted out after a while. When we couldn't do it in a timely fashion, revision opted out. So we have no takers.
But I think if we involve Ted in formulating an RFP, which I don't think that's what he wants, but he's wondering if he's going to be included in, if we prepare an RFP, send it out, whether or not he's still liable to be able to respond to an RFP. I don't see that would be an issue. Because this is a whole new project. It's targeted to theoretically 2 buildings.
Two different buildings.
What's that?
Two different buildings
yeah.
than what it was before.
Yeah,
But I would say that he probably shouldn't help you prepare any more materials if he wants to be able to bid.
Right.
Yeah.
So in terms of this, and maybe I don't know if I should work directly with Kathy on the sequencing of what we're doing. Obviously, we're getting an engineer on board, but I think we're trying to figure out how to line ourselves out from here to move quickly. I mean, do I look for that feedback from the board or from Kathy and Ann? I mean, we have to consider we've already done research on grants and loans and power purchase agreements, and we have some data there, which changes every day, as you know. And then we need, like, maybe some assistance possibly with just understanding how to go forward with a warrant article. Although would we still need another public hearing? I mean, I guess these are questions we have, a process.
Yeah, it seems like I mean, I don't want to discourage you, but it seems like if, well, first of all, getting back to, like, maybe I'm kind of like extending this too far, but to, like, Ted Van Zandt, there's also, was it Dan Weeks or something like that in Enfield. You know, so if you had like a few providers of, you know, putting together packages for solar arrays, so you also just said power purchase agreement too, which I think you ought to target. Maybe you can consult with these people that actually do it to target the project. You know, which you know, either it's power purchase or an outright purchase of the array that the town would buy. Because, you know, we determined last time that a power purchase agreement may not have been the best because the price actually went down in their...
I kind of misspoke with that. We did rule that out. I don't know what it looks like today, the climate today,
Yeah.
but are you saying that... What are you saying, that we
Well,
can't
I'm saying,
start
like,
with?
if you're looking at having something done this year, it might be, you know, you kind of like your back's against the wall for the fact that you got to get the scope of the project, what is the project, whether it's a purchase or whatever, and then you'll probably need to discuss with Revision and with Dan Weeks thing, and to get some expertise in the field with local contractors to get a scope of the project that you can then RFP out, and they can all respond. They're all involved in formulating it, and they're giving you, like, the best advice on how best to, you know, target the two projects that you're looking at.
Yeah, I mean, we have scoped it out with, I'm trying to say that we have scoped it out with New
Okay.
England Commercial Solar Services. And we gave you guys some,
To proceed on this, would we put it in our budget? Would we put a warrant article out? Would it be a petitioned warrant article? What would be the next step in terms of funding a project?
I think it's going to be quite a bit. So unless you have, like, you know, grants that you can pull out from somewhere, which I guess you're considering as well, to reduce the cost, and, you know, it'd be like a warrant. It'd be a warrant article, and the town would vote on it, similar to Bartlett Road.
Warrant article from us, the board, or warrant article petitioned from the community?
Yeah, it could be either. And in fact, if it's, you know, from the commission, I don't know if the commission can work more independently than it would have to come from the board.
They could put out a warrant article a petition warrant article, if the board says you need to go get 25 registered voters to sign a petition. If the board chooses to put it on the warrant, you can, but we need to know sooner than later what numbers we're talking about, because our budgets are just about ready to go.
So I guess that's the problem, that
yeah, we get it.
unless you're,
We just got ourselves
Formed.
commissioned,
Yeah.
like recommissioned. I mean, although we've been trying to do some work in the background. So you're questioning that to get on the warrant article next year would be daunting. Not undoable, but daunting. Because it does sound like we need to figure out all the financing.
well, capacity of the two buildings to, you know.
Sure, I'm talking about if it works out. Because I'm just trying to get in the background lined up with what we need to do if the engineers say, good to go, right?
Right.
So, and that's why I'm sort of posing these questions now, which I know are.
I think you don't necessarily need all the proposals as much as you need some ballpark cost estimate to put on the warrant.
And is this going to be a bond item?
I don't know what types of dollars we're talking about, so I don't know how to answer that.
Sure, so I have a couple that were done back in, I'm just looking for the date, bear with me a moment. Ooh, I don't see a date on here. Oh, August. And so the cost estimate for, sorry, I know it's here.
No.
For,
While she's looking for it, let me say that the average additional weight that the roof has to support is about 3 pounds per square foot, has been the industry standard. I don't know if that's gone down. I'm sure it certainly hasn't gone up. And I'd also like to comment that we only had one potential expert's, or one expert's idea of the scope and costs, and we understand that, yes, we would have to go to others if we do indeed want to open up potential RFPs to that person as a potential bidder on it. Although what Grace is looking for is from just one. We don't have averages out there.
so the one for police would be 151,000, and the one for the town shed would be 44,000.
So roughly, you're looking for 200,000.
And then there'd be rebates and things off of that. Yes.
Is there a reason why we're looking at 2 buildings?
So the contractor who was giving us some pro bono help, looked at the fire department and this building and the transfer station. And then none of those buildings really were appropriate.
You're
Why
two and not
2?
one?
Why not just the PD or the town shed? Why both of them? To simplify things.
Because we think, speaking for myself, we think that climate change is really a looming issue, and helping get some renewable energy sources for the town is a
Right, but you may be able to do a proof of concept to help it more palatable. Just a thought.
Fair enough. I sort of say, why not 2 buildings? But I hear what you're saying, Marianne. We could certainly talk at the PEC level and see if we want to scale it down to 1. Plus maybe, go ahead, Maggie.
If we ended up with PPA, which I realize different financing, but that would be much more palatable in some ways, then there's an efficiency of scale, and you have to hit the sweet spot for the PPA for it to be worth it for the investors, and that definitely would include both. If ownership would be the route, then obviously less expense would be potentially more palatable, but I agree with Grace that there's significant urgency here.
I mean, just to clarify, what I'm hearing is the PPA couldn't be used on arrays this small at those 2 locations they are not connected. But we could re-ask that question out there. It's less cost effective though for PPA is what we're finding out. But it could be part of the research we do to make sure that's not the best option. And
yes, I agree with Grace on that for sure. We were hoping that 2 could qualify for PPA, but is still on the small side.
So, I know our heads are all spinning here. So I'm gonna work with, you got your weight measurement, I believe.
Well, 3
pounds per square foot.
Yeah.
But let me figure out what the square footage is.
Well, the engineer
Well,
really
Michael's
needs to
work
know.
going
Engineer should know that part, yeah.
For a specific array?
Oh, that's a good point. I think you would know it for the entire roof. Yeah.
And that would be additional weight, so it's, can the roof, wherever we're planning to put the array on the roof, could it support that much in that location on the roof? Or are there other limitations? It's not that much more weight, but it's 3 pounds per square foot additional.
Yep.
So is a suggestion to put together an RFP and work with a couple other I don't want to put words in your mouth, Bill, but is that the next step as we're getting the engineer?
So I don't mean to be a wet blanket, but, get the weight estimate nailed down, how many panels of, certain, that you're going to be placing on the roof, and make sure that, at least get the engineer to weigh in and say, yeah, there's no problem at all. And then you still are unsure, I think, PPA versus outright purchase. And I think I indicated too that the PPA that we were pursuing, like 4 years ago,
2017.
we wouldn't, it wouldn't have been a really good value for us. I mean, obviously, using renewable energy is a driving force as well, reducing carbon, but we would have spent more in electricity purchase through the PPA. It wasn't, it looked like it was an attractive deal. It wasn't. Maybe we can like rekindle, that old agreement and see the rates that we are paying, but the rates for electricity kind of went down, at least the co-op electricity, and then we went with this, other reseller that's even cheaper. So arguably, we'll probably end up spending maybe a little bit more using PPA versus an outright purchase, but 100 or 200,000 might put people off if they wanted to vote on it, on a warrant article, unless there were grants to offset it. Similar to what, the water and sewer did. It was an outright purchase, and they fared a lot better. And I know the PPA looks cheap, and we can get it done pretty quick, but then we're gonna be paying for it until we can buy the thing 20 years from now, or 7 years, there's a buyout, I guess, but.
So there's a guy named Mike Powers. He's on the he's on the Shelburne Energy Commission up in Shelburne, New Hampshire, and he's kind of he's an engineer, and he's developed a program to plug in numbers for renewable energy sources, and he and Ted and I worked with him to crunch some numbers, and he said by far PPA is much more expensive, less cost effective.
Okay.
Sorry.
No,
I think I described this a while ago, but to the select board, but
You said much more expensive, PPA?
Yes.
Okay, yeah,
Why would
that's
we do
fine.
even the climate now,
Yeah, why would we
the
do-
climate
yeah.
now. And that loans were wildly cheap, and I worked with some of the lending institutes that Ann suggested I call and we got some loan rates from them for municipal loans. And we gave those.
2.4% that you got, the quote that you got at that time.
Okay. Yeah, they're paying 1.6 or something like that?
1.75, yep.
Yeah, it was wildly cheap
Yeah.
compared. So, but, gotta convince your voters, So please know that I'm not trying to be disrespectful. We sort of jumped through those hoops already. But so we still have to identify grants and loans and things like that.
If you can identify grants, but it has to be kind of, if you're going forward with a warrant article, it has to be there. It can't be this, we hope to acquire this grant for, 50 grand to offset 25% of the cost of, it's become a convoluted warrant article to put in, I believe, but,
You still have to raise the entire amount that you're going to expend.
Yep.
So 50 or 200 or whatever your number is. You'd still have to raise the taxes by that amount.
Yep.
And then an offsetting revenue if you had a specific grant that was approved prior to, or any other revenue that could offset it.
by January. And January's the latest, so,
Right. Well, you'd
so,
also want your budget committee to weigh in. Commission.
Okay, now it's feeling daunting.
Now it's what?
Feeling very daunting.
Oh.
No, fair enough.
It's daunting,
Yeah,
yeah.
no, fair enough. Okay, well, so we'll start with engineer, and then we'll be meeting in another 2 weeks, I think, and we'll see what we can work on in the meantime.
What would happen, Grace, if you waited another year?
I would have more gray hair, Anne, which isn't a bad thing.
Your other option is to do a petitioned warrant article, and you need a whole lot less of us to be involved in getting that done.
And that's the 25 signatures?
Yeah, and then you're gonna be lobbying like hell to, you know, get it passed at the, at our meeting, but,
That being said, the town's taxpayers voted for Bartlett Road. Your odds are good.
You were just dying to bring that up, weren't you? There you go.
The reason I
Everything to do
asked
with it.
about another year is you could do a sense of the meeting at town meeting, which kind of gives you a direction or a sense what the feeling is that day about having solar arrays on town buildings, and maybe do a presentation of why you think it's so important. You're really going to get the attention of the taxpayers there, but that would be without a true vote. It would just be a sense of the meeting.
So our options are formal warrant through the board and hearing and all that. Our second option is a petition, petitioned warrant article, I think you're calling it, and the third would be to put this off for a year and get, what was the word you used, census?
Sense of the meeting.
A sense of the meeting. Okay.
Could I ask if there's another option, which is a petition warrant article with the intention to establish a capital fund, so that we're not asking for expenditure all over the course of 1 year, but that the fund gets started, and then potentially, in the meantime, we can identify the grants or a long-term loan and carry out the other tasks. Is that likely to be any more well-received than voting on a massive expenditure?
I think so.
yeah, it might
I
be.
think that's realistic.
Yeah.
Yep, I think so too.
I think we're all set unless we have anybody else anywhere having questions or feedback, including our esteemed PEC members. Thank you.
Thank you, Grace.
Yeah,
Thank
thanks
you
a
very
lot,
much.
Chris.
Thanks, Grace.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys. Kevin Pancala, Eversource Distribution Maintenance Project Temporary Access Request.
Oh, yeah,
He's been on all
Okay.
night.
There he is.
To the board.
Hey, Kevin.
So I'm on with a couple members from I'm on with a couple members of the Eversource Distribution Project team. I will just quickly introduce a couple folks. We have Josh Letourneau, he is the project supervisor. Catalina Salentano, she is with Eversource's Community Relations Department. Jim Zattler with Eversource's Construction Rep. Joyce Berry, Engineering, and Jeremy Fennell with Licensing and Permitting. Just the whole gamut of the team to help answer any questions or concerns. So the reason that we are reaching out to the town is in regard to two structures that are being replaced off of, one being off of local mode or Railroad Square, and one being off of South Street. So specifically, the parcel in question is off of Railroad Square. The team is looking to, excuse me, went off a little bit of a cold. The team is looking to access the structure 99 on the 3196 distribution line via the town-owned property where the Plymouth State Park sits. Essentially, the difficulty in accessing that structure at this point is the guardrails off of Route 3, and then obviously the railroad on the north side of the structure, coming in from South Street or the Plymouth Water Village, Water and Sewage District. The access itself would be utilizing Railroad Square, which is owned by Locomotive LLC. A couple of us met with Alex Ray a couple months, maybe a month or so ago, to discuss that proposition, and Mr. Ray was amicable to working with us. We do not have any signed agreements at this point in time. We are still in the permitting process and scheduling process, so nothing is locked in schedule-wise at this point. The reason that we are reaching out to the town this early in the process is just trying to determine whether or not the town would allow the access through that parcel, or if the team would need to pursue other permitting avenues. So I'm not sure if you have the overhead in front of you, but I'm happy to share my screen on sort of what the access route looks like.
I don't have it, so.
No. Yeah, if you could share, that'd be great.
So Railroad Square is owned by Locomotive, not DOT?
Locomotive.
Locomotive? So that's the Lincoln?
Alex.
Local.
Oh,
Local.
Local motive.
okay, never mind.
Got a map there. I know where those towers are. They're older than I am,
That's why they're replacing them. No offense, Neil.
being honest.
So you can see roughly the access route, basically coming in off of Route 3 using Railroad Square. There's a small strip of like a grassy area, and then there is a route that is wide enough to fit the equipment. We would need to basically map through sort of a low area here, and then approach the right-of-ways from this northwesterly direction up to structure 99, where they would be replacing that single old lattice structure. That is the general route. We are happy to meet with members of the town if you would like to, meet on site to review. Again, we don't have an exact schedule for this work. It's more or less just reaching out to see if this would be an amicable plan, just to avoid, obviously, the railroad crossing or, impacts to the guardrails and things like that along Route 3 there.
So don't you have a right-of-way?
So the right-of-way crosses Route 3 towards Plymouth Village Water Sewage District.
Yeah.
The reason that we are asking is because this is sort of off the right-of-way path.
Okay.
Obviously, we're restricted by the guardrails on the intersection of Route 3 and the easement, and then the railroad on the northerly side, and where it intersects the easement.
Okay. So have you brought this before the Pemigewasset River Local Advisory Committee?
I can defer
I'm
to-
teasing you. You have.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I was going to defer to Jeremy Fennell with licensing and permitting. But I know that we are currently in the process of, obtaining permits.
Is this underground or overhead? What is it?
Overhead. It's all
Goes
the,
across the river.
So the large project on South Main Street and Railroad Square, is there any concern?
Well, I know that where the guy was, that's all ledge in there.
Well, they're not gonna go through the guardrails,
Where-
they're just gonna go around,
Yeah.
Where they're located is a wetland,
yeah,
and it's infested with Japanese knotweed.
yeah.
They're gonna need mud mats for sure.
So I'm sure it's best management practices that you're gonna be observing, and you're
Yep.
putting down mats and,
I know today when
Yeah.
we walked that project for South Main Street, our drainage all drops into that lower corner, and we haven't determined what our plan is yet, but, I mean, I don't know what that means about where he's setting his poles, but in
It's-
accordance to our drainage project.
you're replacing them just where they are, right? You're not,
Yeah, they're usually offset a couple of feet, but in line. They'll place one pole, you know, maybe 5, 10 feet from where the current pole sits, stand that one up, transfer, and then remove the old pole.
Yeah, that's fine.
Those old poles are museum pieces. They really are.
It's a big museum.
Well, if you're in the power line business.
so, anyway. I appreciate you bringing it before us. I think it'd be interesting to see what Alex is gonna obtain from you to make up for him, going across his property and such, but
Do we need to do a site visit there?
we didn't. No, I think, well, Joe, not unless you wanna take a look at it.
Does Joe want to take a look at it?
I think he knows. Joe, are you satisfied where they're going, or?
Yeah, I mean, down below, I don't have an issue, as long as he's not, he doesn't crowd our right of way up on Parker Street, I don't have an issue.
Oh, so, yeah, we're looking at that one. So what about the one, behind Plymouth Village Water and Sewer?
Structure 100,
Yeah,
that, so we have met with Plymouth Village Water Sewage District, and they are, open to allowing the access through their portion of the property. I know that they were discussing with, our right-of-way specialist regarding, some easement details in a couple, locations, but, that is another location that we are looking to access through Plymouth Village, and we have met with them and discussed the plan as well. They were also amicable to allowing that access as well.
all right.
And as I mentioned, we will be, obtaining signed agreements from any, property owners that are allowing the access, just to confirm the agreement and make sure that everybody is on the same page before the
Is
team
that a
accesses
structure he's
any
going right through?
non-easemented property.
All right. Any other questions from the board, or?
Copy of the map.
Well,
No questions?
thanks very much, Kevin. I'm pleased that you stuck through the whole meeting to discuss this, and so when are you gonna be doing this anyway? Next, month or so, or what?
As of right now, it's difficult to pin a schedule on it, with some of the pending permitting. But it's looking likely early 2022 work
Okay.
at this stage of the game. But, we will definitely be in touch with the town before any construction starts to get some updates, and let everybody know, what's going on. I did want to ask, would we need to come back to the board to obtain any sort of signed agreements, or is there a point of contact that we should be reaching out to ahead of, once the schedule is sort of finalized for an access agreement?
Well, I think if you're working with Jason with Water and Sewer, or their board, they have a separate board, but if,
This is the town's land, not
It-
water and sewer.
yeah, but is their infrastructure there, and
Do we need to give Kathy or somebody permission to
Also there.
sign?
Well, it's there right away too.
Not in the
Only
place
on the
where he
town
wants to go.
I
property.
know, yeah. Do you want to have something to sign, or
Do I want to have something else?
I'm sure they can give you something.
No, I can be the point of contact, and if there's documents that need signing, if the board gives approval.
All
I'll
right,
make a motion to give Kathy approval to sign any permission needed for Eversource to access Structure 99 through our piece of property.
and 100. too, for that
Second.
matter. And also 100 as well.
And 100, Structure 100 if necessary.
That, that's on water and
That's all
sewer
water and
land.
sewer, so
Yeah.
I don't think they need it, but, you know, hey, why not?
Okay, you seconded?
Yeah.
Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, nay. Ayes have it. So you'll be working
with
to
Kathy.
obtain Kathy Lowe's signature, our town manager, if need be,
Okay.
if you feel that you need to.
Understood. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you. See you, Kevin, everybody else. Back to Rel.
Hey, it's me. So I've had a few conversations with Spectrum, mostly just trying to understand what's going on over there. A couple interesting things, and I think you all have this, but I'll just point out some of the bits. The first thing that's interesting is in our franchise agreement, section 3.1 outlines basically that they've agreed to make service available to any unserved areas with a density of 15 homes per unserved mile. So as houses get developed, as areas get developed, if you cross kind of that threshold, then they will run the infrastructure. For expansions to areas that are below that density, then the cost is whatever the installation cost is, but then it's reduced by $500 per subscriber. So for instance, if you're at the end of a street and you pay the infrastructure cost and there's 5 other people along the way, each person that you pass in paying for that construction cost gets reduced by $500 per subscriber. So that's interesting. It starts to give some idea that, well, first, that there is provisions in that contract for a given person who's not currently served to go and reach out to them and get a price in terms of what it would cost to get hooked up to the system. Now, I think we can also work with them to figure out some of those costs in areas that are currently not served, and we could consider, whether or not we choose to do this is up to us, but we could consider using ARPA funds to say, okay, this particular section in town, the density is not 15 homes per unserved mile, but maybe it's 10. And we as a town, want to expand the network, and we want to pay for, more internet access to more rural areas. We could choose to do something like that and then fund it, or fund a portion of it, or something. So that's interesting. The other piece that's interesting is section 4.5 in that contract allows us to request the maps with the specific inventory of where all the cable is currently run in town, which would allow us to kind of overlay that with where there are houses and say, here's the unserved areas, or here are the most densely populated areas that are underserved. Another interesting piece is we can ask them to give us an annual performance review of how their performance has been. What are the customer complaints? What have they heard? All of these sorts of things. Coincidentally, that has to happen, or the request of that has to happen within 30 days of the anniversary of the effective date of the agreement. The agreement was 11/10/2014, so we're in that 30-day window right now, just coincidentally. So as soon as we can find the right contact to talk to, we can request that hearing and that performance, and that would give us an opportunity to sort of ask them questions about their expansion plans and sort of push on some of that. So those are big things I got out of reading the agreement. I am now on my third contact as I'm working through a bureaucracy there to figure out who's the one who actually can help us. I've had 3 phone conversations with one person, 1 phone conversation with another person who I'm meeting with again on Thursday. He's trying to get the cable map thing for us. And then I left a message on another person, the actual government director of government relations for them, Spectrum/Charter, and he hasn't called me back yet. That was just this morning, so I'm hoping to hear more from him. So the research continues, trying to learn as much as I can about what's there, what the expansion opportunities are. What I told them was ideally one of the things we'd really like is to be able to say, you know, this is the phone number you call if you want to talk to somebody about expansion of service. Because asking, you know, a random person who lives at Loon Lake to try to fight through all that red tape is a bit much. But if they could call somebody, have a conversation with a human being, and get a rough estimate on what it would cost to get internet service, that alone, I think, would be a pretty greatly improved service. One other thing in passing through the various people, one of the most recent people I talked to actually manages our internet accounts for the town, because we get free cable drops, but cable drops are basic cable. They don't include internet, so we have to pay for internet. They said most of our services in town are on more of their residential class internet and not on their business class, which would mean, for example, and Scott's not here anymore, if the internet went out in town hall today, your service contract on estimated like actual SLA on getting that internet back is 2 to 3 days. So you could be no internet in the building for 2 to 3 days, which might be fine for town hall, be pretty inconvenient, but might be fine. That's a lot more inconvenient if you're the police department, who is also on that same style contract, where if the internet went down at the police station, the agreement currently says they'll get it back within 3 days. That doesn't feel ideal to me. It certainly didn't feel ideal to the person I was talking to either, so we might want to do some work on changing some of those contracts. Maybe we, you know, upgrade our service and move on to a business class and off of kind of residential class where we are currently. I told them that in my current explorations, that wasn't my priority to figure that out, but it was an interesting little side quest I was on as well.
Doesn't the PD have a redundancy? They get,
So,
yeah,
They get what? I'm sorry.
redundancy. They don't.
Do they get a
rely
secondary
on
connection
Spectrum.
actually from the university?
Yeah.
it used to.
They,
Well, I
no.
think they did. They,
don't
now,
anymore?
I don't know.
I thought they
I
moved
don't
into
believe
it.
so.
You know, we used to have a wireless setup
Right,
that was shot from the top void.
shot down there. And I remember it used to fail all the time.
It was suboptimal in cold temperatures.
Right,
Like it would fail, yeah.
yeah.
As soon as it warmed up, it was fine.
Someone has to, like, you know,
Mm-hmm.
run it
Yeah.
or something like that. So maybe we'll check with.
So we should do some research on what those current internet and when he meets with me on Thursday, he was supposed to bring those with him, the cable maps and the current service contracts we have for the 9 locations in town where we pay for internet access.
And if, when the contract comes due, Zach, while you're rolling through these amount of people that you're talking to, maybe we can find a contact that's gonna,
Gonna help us with the franchise agreement for next year?
or,
Yes.
yeah, or offer us an agreement, I think. I don't
So-
know.
It's been Spectrum for quite a while, but it still reflects Time Warner in the contract, right?
Right, exactly, because we signed the contract last in 2014 and they were still Time Warner.
So the contract didn't say free internet, because that's what everyone else was getting when they made contracts with these.
On 2014, it says basic cable. Franchise
Wow.
agreement says basic cable.
Boy, that sucked because yeah, all the towns that were making contracts were getting free internet.
No, we have free cable.
Which isn't,
So yeah, so what do you get with free cable?
I mean, PBTV.
Yeah, right.
Well, I can't deny it. That's a good option.
Right,
That's great.
valuable.
So the other thing is we're getting communications from charters as well.
Yeah.
So I don't know if they were Time Warner before Spectrum or vice versa.
Charter or something
Yes,
separate.
and that's the guy I called and left a message today.
Yep.
Government relations, what's his name? Kevin, Jim,
John.
John? He was some generic white man's name.
You could say that.
Yeah. I have one too,
It's like Bill.
like Bill.
So, I'm looking forward to seeing that map.
I am too. I'm hopeful that they will actually, he said he was going to try to produce it for me on Thursday, and so we'll see if he actually is able to.
Are they gonna give us an electronic copy?
You know, we are talking about the cable company. It could be,
It's probably a piece of paper that someone's.
Can we ask for
it could
this?
be a hand sketch on a napkin. No, I would assume that it would be an electronic copy, and that's certainly what I'll push for. If,
An ArcGIS layer file would be ideal.
Yes. Yes, absolutely.
Okay.
That's my cable update. I will keep pushing.
That's kind of exciting. Okey-doke. Mid-state. Mid-state health request for a letter of support.
So, Mid-State appeared before the board back in April. Actually, Bob McLeod, I think his name was.
Yeah.
Yeah, appeared to talk about the purchasing of the cozy cabins to make a daycare. And they are now proceeding with attempting to get a community development block, a CDBG grant, yeah.
Community Development Block Grant, yeah.
And they're asking for the board to sign a letter of support for that. It's the only way that they're gonna get it.
Are they going to remain a for-profit business?
Excuse me?
Are they going to remain a for-profit business?
I don't know. I remember Bob saying that they have the status of becoming a nonprofit, but they're gonna re-look into it at a later date.
It says evidences of community support for nonprofit organizations. So. Well, that's what Mid-State is.
Yes.
I thought the building's purchased.
They did purchase the building.
Right. So, I mean, yeah, I think it's, we're not expending any monies, we're not, you know,
Commitment.
yeah, it's just basically saying we support them going forward, which they already did, pretty much.
What would it do if we didn't support them?
So you said that it's required that they get town support?
That's what yes,
If
they
you want the
need-
grant.
if they want the grant.
They really put the sting on us.
It's a done deal now, though. I mean, they did purchase the building. They do have a not-for-profit, tax-exempt status, so they can, at some point, they can take the building off the land, the property off the tax rolls.
It would have been nice if they had alternative plans that they could have presented,
Instead of taking another building in the commercial
taking
zone.
prime commercial property.
Would they consider a pilot?
I was gonna say, I think at some point the board would want to meet with Bob and discuss a pilot.
Hey, so I'm gonna recuse myself from this discussion. for the fact that, as executive director of Transport Central, I actually met with Midstate to pursue a grant from them. So I don't want to, participate in this discussion. So there.
That's the way to go.
So,
Is it better to start the conversation about a pilot before we sign this?
I don't know how quickly they need a letter of support from you to proceed with this.
What does the pilot entail?
It's a payment in lieu of taxes. We can talk to them about.
Negotiate, yeah,
Gotcha.
yep.
And as a payment.
I don't know that they'll agree because we tried to get them to agree to one before and they just wouldn't go there, but they
So is a
haven't.
payment in lieu of taxes, is that an annual thing or is it a one-time?
Yes, it's annual.
They also own the Community
Community
Guarantee
Guarantee.
Savings Bank down here now.
That's still on the tax rolls as
No,
far as I
they
know.
own, back in Hampshire.
Well,
it
yeah,
was-
Yeah, it used to be
Okay.
community guarantee.
Yeah.
Keep up with me, Bill.
I'm way ahead of you.
So yeah, that's another building that they've purchased.
You need a motion?
I feel like it would be nice to at least ask for the pilot then.
Does that seem like we're holding them ransom?
No. No, we want to have a discussion.
I mean, I would like to have a discussion because the implication here is that our community's not providing substantial financial support for the proposed project, but implicitly we are by they being a nonprofit organization in a large building that was previously taxed at a high rate. So are we providing direct support? Well, no, but we're providing indirect support, and it feels like a conversation around a pilot to offset that in order for this to be true is not an unreasonable conversation.
Yeah, they win-win if we just sign.
Right.
We lose.
So you would like to invite them to your next meeting to discuss.
This or the next one, whatever.
You need a motion?
So
not to-
I think if I'm recusing myself, you're the vice, so I'm just,
Yeah.
so you're
Speak
the
up.
chair now.
I'd like to be the chair.
Well, then
No,
here you go.
I think next, if they're available, either the next one or one after that, invite them in for a discussion.
Okay.
I don't think we need a motion for
I
that.
think we're all on board.
Okay.
All right. Okay, now we do meta reports. Well, I get out here that early, I guess, but
So easy. So nothing on Plymouth Village water and sewer.
Couple things from planning board. One, there was a Department of Transportation hearing today that happened at 2 p.m.
right here. Yep.
Oh, yeah.
Did you attend that?
Yep.
Can we give an update on that?
No, it's yours.
I was not able to attend at 2 today, but it was about the
June was
10-year
here.
plan.
Yeah. And it just, they indicated that the two projects that we are going forward with are still on our current 10-year plan.
And those two projects are
Island
Island
Street.
Street and
The Rotary.
Smith Bridge Rotary.
Yep.
Purely informational. Anything interesting? It was just that?
I didn't speak at it, although I probably should have, for the fact that, what it is, the intermodal thing is for all sorts of transportation and, ways to like reduce carbon and also like capacity of roads and such. And so transportation businesses actually do that. So I probably had the opportunity to indicate that Transport Central is like one of many, corporations that can actually help reduce their so in any event, What was the interesting thing? Their funds are dependent on sale of gas, and they get 4 cents per gallon. That populates the fund. Because of COVID and everyone staying at home, that plummeted. And then because of electric cars and such, that's even plummeting even more. So legislatively, there's an opportunity to pursue digging, like electric cars and such. But I don't know who has, any kind of a hybrid, but I think ultimately there will probably be a use tax. And that wasn't, obviously the DOT and Joe Kenny, who is, our executive counselor, wouldn't have considered, going forward with that, but that's a legislative question.
Yeah. The other big thing from the planning board is that they're currently reviewing 3 kind of significant changes to the overall zoning ordinance. And I'm only going to mention the sort of categorical names of the things that they're dealing with. And if you're more interested, check out the video, show up to a planning board meeting. These will be debated more. The first is the definition around non-conforming lots, uses, buildings. There's missing some clarity on that, and they're trying to get that cleaned up. The second is the definition of fences. It's a real weird one, but it's interesting. And then probably the most controversial of the 3 is there's some conversation around changing the maximum number of allowed units under special exception. Currently, you need a special exception for 3 to 6 units in a building. There's a discussion to increase that cap perhaps up to 12 in some zones. If you're curious about more information on that, again, check out the video and show up to a planning board meeting. They're fun.
Any other committee reports?
I have a Campus Community Council one. There is a meeting scheduled for November 17th at 5 p.m. right here. Agenda is Pirate Party and levels of student conduct intervention.
I noticed you sent an email out. The only problem, I want to show up for that as well. So we're going to have probably a quorum of selectmen there. So, it's happened in the past, and, you being the appointee would be the vocal one. Well, you and Neil will both be able to yak, but, if we want to sit there and observe it, that's
sit in the
fine.
back.
Yeah. Well, that's
You
why.
can sit over there.
Yeah, there's like a veil back there, under a veil.
When is that Campus Community Council?
It's on the
November
17th.
17th.
Might also sit in the
It's
back.
at 5 p.m., right?
So if
Is
you
that
have,
meeting zoomed as well?
No, I
don't think so.
think so, unless, I don't think so. Wasn't last time.
Ted, are you aware of, or Ted and Neil, are you aware of the meeting that happened on Thursday between the landlords and the police?
I'm aware that there was a meeting.
I think Kathy was present for that. It might be worth getting briefed on what was discussed in that meeting.
Pretty much the landlords, the ones that were there, were pretty negative about what happened with the Pirate Party and how the police, both police departments, the campus and ours, handled it, which is why the Campus Community Council meeting was proposed. They all suggested that we discuss it at the Campus Community Council meeting. So there wasn't a lot, that went down. They did voice their concerns, and the PDs, both of them, came back with, their feelings on it. And it kind of got into a headbutting situation, so it was decided to have the Campus Community Council meeting.
And the landlords go to that as well?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yes.
there's a
Yeah.
number of them that are present and vocal.
Yeah, they cleaned up the place, the landlords did, so.
And as Alex and Steve both said, we didn't ask you to do that. Alex had already contacted Joe at Highway Department to have the street sweeper ready and, to do the cleanup, and then.
Joe, has the street sweeper been out there to sweep that road?
I don't think we ended up going out.
My understanding is.
Because they said that they
My
took care of
understanding
it.
is there's still glass in that road.
They said that they had taken care, the landlords had taken care of it, so.
I have some things that are very, very close to personnel and reputation that I want to talk about, and I'm not sure if they qualify for non-public or not.
Well, you can throw it out there,
Fair on
we'll
the
find
side.
out.
If it's personnel and reputation, then yes, they should be under non-public. Tom's on there waiting to do his non-public. So we're going into non-public anyway for personnel.
Okay, then
So as soon as we're done with the,
so after committee reports, I will, in non-public, I have commentary about Pirate Party.
All right. Okay, anybody else?
I have a report. The Conservation Commission met on October 19th, and it was generally conceded that New Hampshire has become a national environmental refuge.
Oh, yeah?
So that puts pressure on our state, and the Conservation Commission is, they have a number of issues that they're concerned about. Number one was a GIS software license. I recommended that they go to the Lakes Region Planning Commission to talk with them about it, but I don't know where else they would get a GIS software license unless the town can provide it.
Lisa's the chair.
Right.
Can't she inquire from PSU?
Yeah, that was our
PSU
discussion.
doesn't actually license it anymore. It's a university system.
Oh, okay.
So
Can't you grab a license?
the committee is interested in discussing a land use change tax fund warrant article. And they want to set up a subcommittee to work on that. And it involves the percentage of the tax money that the Conservation Commission would get. And there's a project called Taking Action for Wildlife. We're going to work with Amanda Stone. She was one of my professors at UNH. We're also going to meet with Lori Summer on October 27th by Zoom at 9 a.m. There was discussion about the,
Oh, 1 p.m.
At 1 p.m.
oh, it's, we had 9 a.m. It's 1 p.m.
They
now?
couldn't, yeah, they couldn't make it at 9.
Oh, okay, so it's 1 p.m.
I did send out an invite
Oh, yeah,
changing the time.
on email. We discussed the importance of discussing with the Lakes Region Planning Commission and the state the stream crossing on Tenny Mountain Highway for Clay Brook, which is adjacent to the old telephone building that the co-op now owns.
Oh, okay.
Because we have two very important wildlife areas that have to pass through that area, between the Baker River and the Claybrook uplands. They want to improve their planning board communications. Apparently, the Conservation Commission doesn't feel they're getting enough input with the planning board. And we have a trails subcommittee, and we have a person who's interested in volunteering, so we're gonna see about that. There's a lot of concern about the burgeoning problem with invasive vegetation, like Japanese knotweed and Oriental bittersweet, and the list goes on. And there's been some discussion with the New Hampshire Department of Agriculture, Doug Seigan, and I think his office is under budgeted for what he has to do. That's my opinion. And they want to talk about zoning overlays for setbacks, and possibly considering changing the zoning along the Baker River from being a set number of feet from the stream bank to a soil-based setback, because as you go along the river, you have different types of soils. Some are highly erodible, and some are ledge outcrops. And it doesn't make sense to have a 500-foot setback if you have a ledge outcrop, but you may have an area where the soils are highly erodible, and it might need to be more than 500 feet. So they'd like to consider possibly changing the zoning regarding setbacks, an environmental sensitive zone. That's it. Is that enough?
That's enough. Anything else?
So the school district attended a few of those. They go much quicker, by the way, just as a side note. So most of the talk, other than the sort of day-to-day stuff, has been around COVID and the mask, not requirements. Some parents have showed up and wanting mask requirements. The elementary school finally allowed that if there's a cluster, the superintendent can mandate masks during that cluster period. I think that's 10, 14 days. And then the high school just called a meeting on Tuesday, superintendent asking for the same thing, giving her the power to say masks are mandated when there's a cluster. So those both passed. That's been the biggest conversations lately.
Interesting. Got a PRLAC meeting tomorrow night. We're going to be reviewing actually the Lori Summer opinion about the whatever property. And what else? There was also a very interesting site visit, which I wasn't able to attend, but it was the Friends of the Penny, and they were looking at Livermore Falls, the bridge, the Bumblebee thing.
The upside down pumpkin seed bridge.
Pumpkin seed, that's what I meant to say.
Bumblebee.
Yeah, and the interesting thing is, theoretically, I mean, it was being used as a road until like the 60s or something like that.
I remember going over that bridge.
Oh, yeah?
It scared the life out of me.
And there's, so Tink Taylor arranged for this Historic Properties Committee, which is like a national thing. It's an association, apparently. And they had a meeting. They invited, this group in. I think they stayed at the Common Man Inn, and they toured the Pumpkin Seed Bridge, not the whatever it is.
It's the upside down pumpkin seed bridge.
And also BB River.
Upside down pumpkin seed bridge.
Livermore Falls. Half the bridge was taken down.
The big metal one that runs across.
Iron one or whatever.
Upside down pumpkin seed bridge.
Yeah.
All right.
That's technically what it is.
So they also looked at BB River Community, which is, just north of here. There's a group of houses that they call it the BB River Community. There's also a mill up there, which if you go cross-country skiing up the railroad, you go by this old mill, and it's being kind of like looked at for like historic conservation. So in any event, the pumpkin seed, the upside down, the reverse,
Pumpkin seed
whatever,
bridge.
pumpkin seed bridge, could be utilized by putting a deck on the top and having a lookout. And if you can, look on YouTube, you can see where, college kids will be jumping from
Yeah.
the top of that bridge, and a lookout might provide them more opportunity to do that.
More or less.
Rocks underneath.
You want to
Actually,
do that?
if you look at it online, I'm
No, I've seen
almost
it.
tempted.
I've seen it.
You're tempted to
Almost.
jump off the bridge?
There's like the upper level and the lower level. Upper level is like, a flat walkout, and the lower level is the belly of the pumpkin seed. And, that doesn't look that bad.
Oh
I
my
wouldn't
gosh.
jump off of either of them.
Me either.
Well, so in any event,
People have.
Oh, I know.
Yeah, I've seen people.
I've seen the videos.
the gist of it is that bridge isn't owned by anybody. Nobody's claiming ownership on that bridge. And in fact, I think I attended, in any event, one of the outcomes of that is that anyone can claim ownership.
I know some history there. The bridge was purchased by Stuart Whitehouse from Campton, and he thought he was gonna take it down and sell it for junk. Well, he took part of it down, and then he decided it wasn't worth it, so he abandoned it. And he's long gone.
All right?
So
it's owned by
he
nobody.
abandoned it.
So therefore, anybody that wants to claim it can claim it. And the problem is, if you claim it, then you're also going to claim on the liability that goes along with it. So everyone's suggesting that the state take it over, which kind of
I
makes
thought the
sense.
state owned it now.
No, they're kind of like, no.
They're on the other side?
In fact, I had a discussion with Sheila Connolly about whether Campton should claim ownership of it, or Holderness, rather.
It's in Campton.
It is in Campton.
It's in
Well,
Campton.
she was saying actually Plymouth should own it.
No,
I
it's
think-
over the
I think-
line.
I think Holderness should
On the
own
other
it.
side of the line.
So, in any event, if the state does take it over, then which they should, but they suggest that they can't take it over because of the liability. Well, in order to get to the thing, you have to cross state property, because the railroad is state right-of-way,
Yeah.
and the other side of the river is also a state park. So,
Sure.
so therefore, we should be able to convince the state to take ownership of it, put a platform up there, and make a nice, maybe a diving board too.
We'll just give it to them.
It's not in our town.
Ours.
We'll bequeath it to them. Doesn't really matter.
My dad was county coroner, and he was up there every year, and it was really sad.
LRPC's meeting right now.
Yeah, start at 6. I thought we were gonna be out of here by
Meeting
6,
right
but,
now.
Right.
Yeah, right.
so that's the commission, that the executive committee is meeting, I think, on Thursday or something like that, down in Meredith.
Any news from parking?
I was just about to say that. So, yes. Parking meters, yes, well, not parking meters, because it park mobiles will go into effect Monday the 1st. I'm already getting questions from my staff. We'll see how that goes.
Yeah,
Buck an hour.
and no parts an hour. You have to
No
shove in
parts.
4 quarters if you
Right,
got the quarters.
No matter what.
Yeah.
So every hour you have to go out and put quarters in?
No, you'll,
can-
well, you
you
can
can use
you
the
can do
software.
quarters, or you can use the app on your phone.
Oh,
Not on your phone.
not on my,
Fair enough.
I'm probably not gonna use the parking spot. I couldn't fit into it.
You've got one right over here.
Yeah.
It's true.
I got this new card here.
Rick, give him another pass.
You got a parking pass, right?
Yeah, I got a new one.
All right, so therefore, we're pretty much done, right?
We done?
Did you say something about non-public?
Well, not yet.
Yes, we gotta get there first. We gotta
Make a
wait
motion
for
to go
public.
to
Do we have
non-
public comments before we go? to-
Oh, yeah, good point.
That's a good sign.
Thank you, Frank. You
Anybody else
don't,
got
you don't have any problem inheriting the bridge, do you?
That's right.
Let the record show that Frank took possession of the bridge.
Put a tent up there.
Okey-doke, so.
Make a motion to go into non-public in accordance with RSA 91A:3, 2A, and I think C.
Just, so what do we, just A, or what?
He said
Oh,
he
with A and
thinks.
C.
Okay, A and C. Okay, we have a motion. Is there a second?
I'll second.
And a second. Ted, your vote.
Aye.
Mary Ann?
Aye.
Bill, aye. Zach?
Aye.
Neil?
Aye.
We're non-public.
Motion to adjourn?
Second.
Sorry.
Second.
What? Oh, you don't want to do another motion? Ever again?
That's my favorite one.
Oh, okay. All right, moved and seconded. All those in favor say aye.
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 Aye.